खुदा में रज़वी हो।
Alhamdulillah, thumma alhamdulillah. We have entered the month of Sha'ban al-Mu'azzam, and when the month of Sha'ban comes, then we know that the month of Ramadan is at our doorstep. The month of Sha'ban is that Mubarak month concerning which the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Sha'ban shahri, Sha'ban is my month. This is a very special and a very blessed month. And in this month, Almighty Allah blesses us with a very important and a very Mubarak night on the eve of the 15th of Sha'ban, which is a night of salvation. It is a night of bara'at, when Allah's mercy descends in abundance upon the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Alhamdulillah, this is a very blessed, this is a very Mubarak month. And as I said, that when Sha'ban comes, everybody knows that Ramadan is at the doorstep. But the question that we ask ourselves every year is that Ramadan will come, will we be here to see it? Every year we ask ourselves the same question. Sha'ban has come, Ramadan will come, will we be here to see it? Will we be here to reap its blessings? Will we be here to allow it to purify and change us? None knows the answer to this but Allah, and by the giving of Allah, His beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when we do not know whether we will really get to welcome this month of Ramadan Sharif that is going to come, should we not change today? Should we not rectify ourselves now? Should we not try to make ourselves better Muslims now, before it is too late? The pious servants of Almighty Allah have always taught us the importance of repenting in the court of Allah, of making tawbatul nasuha, the importance of reflecting on our lives and understanding how important it is for us to make positive change, so that we may benefit ourselves and those around us by the grace and the mercy of Almighty Allah. And talking about the pious personalities, this month of Sha'ban marks the Mursalaba Quds and the Wisal of many great personalities, but prominently the Imam of the Ahnaf, the Imam of the Hanafis, Sayyidina Imam Azam, Nu'man ibn Thabit, Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. Those Mursalaba Quds was on the 2nd of Sha'ban. Indeed, we have to pay tribute to the personality who is our Imam. And not only the Hanafis pay tribute to Imam Azam, but the Aimma of all the other mazahib have paid tribute to Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. Imam Malik radiallahu anhu, Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anhu, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal radiallahu anhu, have all acknowledged the eminence of Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. And that is why Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu is known as Imam Azam. That is why he is known as the big Imam, the exalted Imam. Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu, Allahu Akbar. He is such a great Imam and such a treasure trove of knowledge that all the fuqaha and all the scholars that come after Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu, what did Imam Shafi radiallahu anhu say? He said they are the descendants of Abu Hanifa in knowledge. They are the awlad of Imam Abu Hanifa in knowledge. They are the province of Imam Abu Hanifa in knowledge. Allah blessed him with so much of knowledge, so much of wisdom. The beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam foretold the arrival of Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu ta'ala anhu. It has been mentioned in the hadith that if the knowledge had to reach the heights of the stars, of the galaxy of the stars, the Suraya, then a man from Faris will come, a young man from Faris will come, who will bring that knowledge down to the earth. And it was been mentioned by all the muhaddithin that that personality is Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu's entire life was spent in the quest of knowledge. And he spent his life speaking haqq. That is why you find that Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu was imprisoned. He went through so much of taklif. He went through so much of hardships. But all of this was for the sake of the deen of Allah. He spoke the truth at all times. He did not care about who opposed him. He did not care about his enemies. All he cared about was the deen of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today there are those who make objections on the position and on the status of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. They need to first go and understand who this personality is. Who this personality is. Imam Abu Hanifa was blessed with so much of knowledge. Allah gave him so much of wisdom. But subhanallah, he was such a humble personality. Imam Abu Hanifa was such a humble personality, let me tell you, that he attributed all that he got from the court of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the blessings of his parents. Today people reach great heights, become very powerful, but when they reach these heights, they forget about their parents. They forget about those who made effort to bring them to this level. Imam Abu Hanifa never forgot. Imam Abu Hanifa never forgot. Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu himself says, every Friday I give 20 dirhams of khairat for the Isal Asab of my parents. Every Friday, 20 dirhams in that time. 20 dirhams for the Isal Asab of my parents. Every Friday I give 10 dirhams for my mother, 10 dirhams for my father. And I have taken a vow to do this. Imam Abu Hanifa says that I have taken a mannat, that every Friday I give this in the name of my mother and my father. Such a great Imam. But he remembered at all times that whatever I am, it is the blessings of my parents. The blessings of my parents. We should learn from great personalities like Imam Azam Abu Hanifa Radi Allahu Anhu. Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu, knowledge was so wide and so vast. But you must remember that when somebody reaches a height of excellence by the grace of Allah, truly reaches a height of excellence, he will always have enemies. Always have enemies, and always have those who spread misinformation about him. And this happened with Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. This happened with Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu, that people spread misinformation about Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. And this information or this misinformation spread so far. Imam Abu Hanifa was in Kufa. He was in Kufa, and then in Baghdad al-Muqaddas in Iraq. That is why the Mazar Muqaddas of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu is in Baghdad Sharif. The Mazar of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa is in Baghdad Sharif in Azmiya. Okay, very great and a blessed place. The great fuqaha have stated that if you go to the Mazar of Imam Abu Hanifa and with your heart you ask for ilm, Allah will bestow you with ilm. Okay? The dust of the Mazar of Imam Abu Hanifa, if somebody puts it into his mouth with sincerity, Allah will bless him with knowledge in his heart. This is the barakat of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu, so there was always misinformation in every zamana about those who spoke up. Always. And they did this with Imam Abu Hanifa. He was in Kufa, he was in Baghdad. But they spread this misinformation right up to the Haramain Tayyibain. Once Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu went for Hajj. And there in the Holy Haram, Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu saw a Mubarak personality near the Maqam Ibrahim. He went for Hajj, and there near Maqam Ibrahim he saw a very Mubarak, a very blessed personality. And he recognized that personality. Who was that personality? Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Muhammad Baqir radiallahu anhu. Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Muhammad Baqir radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He saw Sayyidina Imam Muhammad Baqir radiallahu anhu by the Maqam Ibrahim, the Ahl Bayt of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu went up to him and he conveyed salam with adab to Imam Baqir and he kissed his Mubarak hand. See, Imam Abu Hanifa taught the adab of the Ahl Bayt. And there are today people say that Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anh didn't take hadith from Imam Bukhari. He took from Hazrat Imam Zayd Shaheed only. He respected them, he honored them. But there is not even one riwayat present like this in Musnad Imam Azam. Okay? But that's a discussion by itself. Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anh saw Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Bakr radiallahu anh, and he went and greeted Imam Bakr radiallahu anh. And when he conveyed salam and showed respect to Imam Bakr close to the Maqam Ibrahim, Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Bakr radiallahu anh asked him, what is your name? And where do you come from? Hazrat Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anh said, I am Abu Hanifa. I am Abu Hanifa. Hazrat Imam Bakr looked at him carefully and he said, are you the same Abu Hanifa who is from Iraq? Are you the same Abu Hanifa from Iraq? Are you the same person from Iraq, from Baghdad? Hazrat Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anh says, I am the same person. I am the same person. Imam Bakr says, I have heard that you give priority to your own intellect. I have heard that you give priority to your own aql and to your own ideology over the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you give fatwa based on your aql. Hazrat Imam, now this was the misinformation, isn't it? It had reached Imam Bakr. So Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anh, when he heard that, he said, Hudur, oh Imam Bakr radiallahu anh, I am the same Abu Hanifa. But the information that you got is misinformation. The information that you got is misinformation. Hazrat Imam Abu Hanifa said, Hazrat, let me present a few cases of my fatwa before you. And you decide for yourself whether what you heard about me is true or not. So Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anh said to Imam Bakr, listen carefully. Imam Abu Hanifa said to Imam Bakr radiallahu anh, Huzur, I'm giving you the essence of the discussion because time doesn't permit. He said, Huzur, who is stronger? Who is more authoritative, the male or the female? Who is stronger? So Imam Bakr radiallahu anh responded, he said, the male. He said, the male. Hazrat Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu ta'ala said, if I were to decree and give fatwa based on my intellect, then I would have given the male, the female, a greater share over the male in inheritance. And I would have given the male half of what the female gets. But it's the other way around. The male gets double, the female gets less. He said, and why? It is based on the hukum of the Quran and not on my intellect. Not on my ideology. This is my fatwa. Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anh then said to Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Bakr radiallahu anh, Huzur, which is more impure, urine or semen? Which is more? Both are impurities. But which is an impurity of a greater height? Urine or semen? Imam Bakr radiallahu anh said, urine. Urine is more najis. He said, urine. Imam Azam Abu Hanifa said, if I had to give fatwa based on my ideology, then I would have given the fatwa every time that a person passes urine, he must make ghusl. Every time that a person, subhanallah, subhanallah. Every time that a person passes urine, he must make ghusl. But I give the fatwa that when he discharges semen, he must make ghusl. Because this is as per the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and not as per my intellect. This is as per the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and not as per my intellect, because this was what my Nabi commanded. Then he said, Huzur, he said to Imam Bakr radiallahu anh, Huzur, which is the greater form of ibadat, namaz or fasting? Allah. Which is a greater form of ibadat, namaz or fasting? Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Bakr radiallahu anh said, namaz. It's absolute ibadat. He said, Huzur, if I had to give it fatwa according to my akal and intellect, then I would have given fatwa that during the menstrual cycle, all the namazes that the woman missed, they must repeat it. But I give fatwa that they must not repeat the namaz, they must repeat the roza. They must not repeat the namaz, they must repeat the roza. Because this is as per the hadith of the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So I do not give verdict according to my aql. I give verdict in accordance to the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When Imam Baqir radiallahu anhu heard this, he stands up. Imam Baqir, he stands up and he walks to Imam Abu Hanifa and he kisses him on his forehead. He walks to Imam Abu Hanifa and he kisses him on his forehead and he says, "Oh Abu Hanifa, for as long as there is an alim like you in this dunya, none will change the shariat of my Nana Jan." As long as there is somebody like you in the dunya. Misinformation. But look at how they saw through by the ilm of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa Radi Allahu Anhu. Another example to understand the knowledge of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa Radi Allahu Anhu. Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mubarak Radi Allahu Anhu was the student of Imam Abu Hanifa. Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak is from amongst the great students of Imam Abu Hanifa Radi Allahu Anhu. Once he had journeyed to Syria, he had gone to Sham. And while there, he thought that while I'm in Syria, let me go and meet Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Abdurrahman Awza'i radiallahu anhu. Very great Imam of Hadith. He was a contemporary of Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. Let me go meet Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Awza'i radiallahu anhu. So Hazrat Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak radiallahu anhu thought that he had gone for something to Syria. He said, so let me meet him, and while I'm with him, let me learn some hadith from him. Because he's also a great Imam of hadith. Let me listen to and hear some hadith from him. So he went to meet Hazrat Imam Awza'i radiallahu anhu. When he went there, Imam Awza'i radiallahu anhu asked him his name and where he came from. At that time it was from Kufa. So he said, I've come from this place. He said to him that you are coming from there? I have heard that there is a person called Abu Hanifa who makes decisions based on his aql. He makes decisions based on the intellect, on his ideology. He leaves the sunnah of the beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So I am giving you one advice. Hazrat Imam Awza'i is telling Abdullah ibn Mubarak, the student of Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu, I am giving you one advice that when you go back home, keep away from that Abu Hanifa. If you ever hear about him, don't go anywhere near him. Keep away from him, otherwise he'll lead you astray. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Mubarak radiallahu anhu is thinking in his heart, Ya Allah, Imam Awza'i is talking about my ustaz. He's talking about Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. But he's thinking that how should I now get rid of this misinformation? Imam Abu Hanifa was one of, Hazrat Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak was one of the fortunate people with Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Shaybani radiallahu anhu, that when the big ulama of the time and the fuqaha used to not be able to resolve any issues, they would come to Imam Abu Hanifa, and there used to be huge like seminars, fixed seminars and sessions that used to take place, conferences. And in that they would present all their difficult matters and cases. And Imam Abu Hanifa used to give the solutions to those matters. And Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Shaybani radiallahu anhu and Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak radiallahu anhu were responsible for writing down the decisions. They used to write down the questions and they used to write down the fasla and the decision and the judgment that used to be given by Imam Abu Hanifa after a lot of debating amongst the fuqaha. So Hazrat Imam, that Abdullah ibn Mubarak now, is being told by Hazrat Awza'i radiallahu anhu, Imam Awza'i, that if you go back to your home place, please don't go near Abu Hanifa, he'll lead you astray. Yet Imam Hazrat Abdullah ibn Mubarak is a student. So the next morning when Abdullah ibn Mubarak went to him, he took some sabaq from him in hadith. After he finished, he said, Hazrat, I got some questions I want to ask. If you can assist me. Hazrat Imam Awza'i said, no problem. So Hazrat Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mubarak radiallahu anhu presented around 5 questions. When Hazrat Imam Awza'i looked at those questions, they were questions and the cases that came to Imam Abu Hanifa, which Imam Abu Hanifa resolved, which not the fuqaha of that time couldn't resolve. So when Hazrat Imam Awza'i looked at the 5, he said, these are very new questions and they are very intricate. These are very, very intricate questions, and very complicated. I will have to get some time and beg hor. I have to ponder on this and then I'll discuss with you. So in that, while he was saying that, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mubarak said, Huzur, about the first question, what do you think if this answer is given? What do you think if somebody gives this answer? Hazrat Imam Azam surprised. He said, this answer is absolutely correct. My mind never even went there. He said, but Huzur, on this question, this objection will come up. He said, yes, you're right, this objection will come up. He said, so what will be the answer to that objection? Hazrat said, Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak said, Huzur, what if this answer is to that objection? He said, that answer is also correct. Like that, he discussed the five. Imam Azam was taken aback. The next day he came for sabak again, he gave another 5 questions. Imam Azam said, these are also new ones. Again, Hazrat Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak did the same thing. He said, Huzur, what if this was given as an answer? He said, your answer is absolutely correct. And went on like this for many days. And when this went on, then Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Radi Allahu Anhu said to Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak Radi Allahu Anhu, you are presenting such complicated cases and then you are suggesting answers. And the answers that you are suggesting are so perfect and correct and fitting to the questions. He said, where did you get this knowledge from? Where did you learn these answers from? He said, Huzur, from the same personality who you told me not to go to. From the same personality who you told me not to go to, I learned this from Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. He is my ustad. When Abdullah ibn Mubarak said this, Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Rahman Uzai said, if this is the knowledge and the caliber of Imam Abu Hanifa, if this is the ilm of Imam Abu Hanifa, so he said to him, oh Abdullah ibn Mubarak, this time when you go back to Kufa, don't leave the feet of Abu Hanifa. Don't leave the feet of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa. Now look, misinformation was given, but when they found out the reality of Sayyidina Imam Azam Abu Hanifa, they all acknowledged this maqam of the ilm of Imam Abu Hanifa. Allah had blessed him with so much of knowledge. Time is limited. I'm going to tell you one waqia to give you better understanding very quickly. His knowledge was so vast. This knowledge which we're talking about is when he was teaching Abdullah ibn Mubarak, is when he was teaching the great scholars, Imam Abu Yusuf, Imam Muhammad, and all the great Aimma of the time. When he was their Imam and he's still our Imam and everybody's Imam. Now let me tell you about a time when he was either 7 or 8 years old. His ilm then. Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Abu Hanifa was 7 or 8 years old. He was going somewhere with his father, Hazrat Sayyidina Sabit radiallahu anhu, who was amongst those people that was nurtured at the feet of Mawla Ali radiallahu anhu, his father. So Hazrat Sayyidina Imam Azam Radi Hanifa radiallahu anhu, 7, 8 years old, is with Hazrat Sabit, with his father. They're going somewhere. A person, a Nasara, a Christian, had set up a gathering and he had put a pulpit, a mimbar, and he was sitting on top. And he said, I will ask 3 questions and I challenged your ulama of the Muslims to answer. I have a challenge. The 3 questions that he asks were so intricate that many scholars were unable to answer him when they got there. He would break the proofs that they gave. And when they could not answer him, he would mock them. Imam Abu Hanifa, 7, 8 years old, standing with his father and watching what is happening. Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu then says to his father, Abba Jan, I'll answer. Scholars are not being able to answer. He said, I'll answer. His father Sabit radiallahu anhu says, shh. These big scholars are coming here. They are having difficulty with this kafir. Please, with this Christian, wait. He says, no, I want to answer it. Finally, after much discussion with his father agrees, okay, go and answer. So Hazrat Imam Azam Abu Hanifa, at 7 or 8 years old, he comes and stands in front of the rejector, or in front of that Nasara, and he says, I'll answer your question. Obviously, when he sees a 7 or 8-year-old boy, he makes a mockery of it. He says, okay, you want to answer me, well and good. Answer. Imam Abu Hanifa said, not like this. Not like this. He said the person who's asking the question should ask from the floor. The person who's asking the question should ask from the floor, and the one who's answering should be sitting on the mimbar. So why don't you come down here and ask, and I'll sit on the mimbar? Why don't you come down here to the floor and you ask the questions and I'll sit on the pulpit and I'll answer? So when the Nasara heard this, he said, it makes sense. So he got down, he came to the floor, and he let Imam Abu Hanifa, the 80-year-old, sit on the mimbar. Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu sat on the mimbar. When he sat on the mimbar, now the Nasara asks, he said, what and who is before Allah? I'm being brief. Allah is the creator. Allah created everything. So what he's asking? What is and who is before Allah? So Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu said to him that, do you know how to count? He says, yes. He said, count 4. So the Nasara counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until he goes to 20 according to some narrations. Imam Abu Hanifa stops it. He says, now tell me what is before 1? What is before 1? He says, there's nothing before 1. He says, if there's nothing before 1, then there's nothing before one Allah. Here's Wahid Hakim. Keeps quiet. He asks his second question. Which direction is Allah facing? Which direction is Allah facing? Allah is free from space, free from direction. Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu says, light a candle. He lights a candle. Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu says, which direction is the light facing? Which direction is the light facing? He said, this is light in the flame. Light has no direction. He said, Allah is Noor. Allah is the light of all light. Whichever direction you face, there is the mercy of Allah. There are the manifestations of Allah. He said, okay, third question. What is Allah doing now? He said, Allah is putting a rejecter like you on the floor and putting me on the mimbar. Allah is taking a rejecter like you, putting him on the zameen, and he is putting me on the mimbar. He said, this is my Rabb. This is Allah. What do you understand from this? You understand the knowledge of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu. You understand his wisdom and his intellect. And why was this? Because of his firmness in following the Quran and the Sunnah. Because of following that which is commanded by Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But remember, this was at 7 and 8 years old. Understand what was the condition of Imam Abu Hanifa when he reached maturity in his knowledge. When he reached the height and pinnacle of ilm and taqwa, what was the piety of Imam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu at that time. So we pay tribute to Imam Azam Abu Hanifa radiallahu anhu, and to all the A'immah of the Madhahib, Imam Shafi, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, Ridwanullahi ta'ala majma'in. Allah bless us with their blessings and the kuyus of barakat, and Allah protect our tongues from speaking against the beloveds of Allah. Allah keep us firm on Ahlul Sunnah. Allah keep us firm with Iman. Let us leave this world with Iman. Those that are ill in our community, Allah grant them shifa, come, said, Ajil. Special dua.